Welcome to the session. My name's Ted Ryan. I work for an organisation called our organisation. We are a small infrastructure support group within Birmingham, and I've been working with Aging Better within the Sparkbrook area for the past probably 4 or 5 years now. If we go round the group, if we introduce ourselves at the moment, and then we come back to me and I'll explain where we go from there. Okay, so we've got 2 Naeems at the moment. One of them is called Cam. So Cam Naeem, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hello, good morning. I don't know why I'm being named today.
Oh, I sent you the link.
Yeah,
Okay.
you've come in on his link.
Okay. So I'm Cam. I work in the in ACP Ashiana Community Family Wellbeing Centre as the in the Women's Wellbeing Hub. So I work in the community supporting women with physical health, mental and emotional health as well.
Thank you. Rabina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi. Yes, I'm Rubina. I'm from Smart Women Community Training Center in Spark Hill, Sparkbrook as well. So our center providing the activities for the local women.
Okay, thank you. And Naeem.
Good morning, everybody. My involvement within Aging Better, the work that I did was actually during April 2019 to April 2020. And my presentation is the kind of experiences and the journeys that I went through supporting small groups and organizations.
Okay, thanks. Okay, a little bit about Sparkbrook and the Sparkbrook Aging Better program to begin with, before we then have an input from the other members. Sparkbrook was both a ward and a district within Birmingham. It's just southwest of the inner city. Got high immigrant communities, which have changed over the years. You know, from the Irish to the Asian to African. Large number of community-led initiatives, which have historically been funded through a range of external funding programs going back to the mid 70s, and stuff like that. Huge number of issues, health issues, education achievement and employment issues, low income, and sometimes low employment expectations as well. And the current ward of Sparkbrook and Bolsall Heath East is the #1 ward in the Birmingham 2019 Index of Multiple Deprivation, and the area has been constantly within the top 10% of the most deprived wards within the area. As an Aging Better programme, whilst it focused on the Sparkbrook ward, as was, I say pre-2018, that's because the ward boundaries changed in 2018 in Birmingham. One of the things we did was recognise that communities don't always operate within ward boundaries, and especially some of the Asian communities you know, drift across to other facilities which have been developed elsewhere. So we worked within sort of parameters around the area and everything like that. We developed an Aging Better hub, which worked with a number of community-led networks and developed those networks, and that supported. That was led by people from the community developing an activity, working with people within that area, and some of those activities were hosted by some of the community organisations within the area. We had the local action plan, which then looked at how do we develop infrastructure activity, and did some training and development for the current community groups and the existing community groups and stuff like that. So today's deliveries, and what we're planning is just some short presentations, some short discussions from both Naeem, Cam and Rabina about their work with Aging Better, and within engaging people within the area. So from that point of view, we want to look at how, you know, the differences that it's made and stuff like that. So with further ado, I'll start off with Naeem. And Naeem's role within Aging Better was to work with some of the networks and to work with some of the organisations to actually take them forward. Rubina runs what would be described as a grassroots organisation with access to women within the area, and Cam works for, as she said, Asiana Community Project, and runs the wellbeing program there, which has been very successful online over the last 12 months. So it's about between 5 and 7 minutes talking about what you do and what they do, and then we've got some questions. If you want to start putting some questions in the Q&A or in the chat, I'll be monitoring those, and then we'll try and answer those questions in the second part of the session this morning. Okay, so with no further ado, Naeem, over to you.
And good morning. I really want to start off by saying is that working with any kind of communities has always been rewarding, breathtaking, just to see the amount of people and places and spaces that actually operate within the area that I've been working. And in some cases, it's been inspiring as well as aspirational. I'm going to start first with not an introduction, but with a conclusion. And the conclusion that I wish to present is that to work within the communities, we have to actually ensure that we're working with people, mobilizing them to actually take leadership and control, not by control of just leading something, but taking control of a particular issue or aspect in the community. And is how do you actually create that journey? And one of the key aspects that we started right at the beginning was to actually develop a narrative. And one of the key things within the private communities, there's so many issues that affect the local community, and many small and large organizations, what they tend to do is they don't actually try to deal with a single issue. They will try to deliver everything. One of the key experiences that I found with grassroots organizations is that how small they are very powerful of actually engaging with the local people. And these could be through their family networks or friend networks or even their social networks. But majority of these networks are very informal. So most of the contacts are usually verbal. So the whole mechanism of the initial period was, let's initiate a conversation. Let's build something that can actually identify in local areas. And the key narrative, and where my conclusion comes to, is that to ensure that you create something which is powerful, it requires the ingredients of empowering people, creating a place, and providing a space to allow activities to occur. And that message was actually initiated right from the beginning. Now, as Ted stated, Sparbrook is a deprived area. But to take into the context of deprivation, it's very important to know what the area is made of. And the ward was actually about 30,000 people. And out of the 30,000 people, 80% of the population were actually from the BAME communities. And the majority BAME community were predominantly from the Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities. But there is a unique feature in Sparbrook. Within a very small area, less than half a square mile, there's around about 130 charities that actually operate within the area that provide meaningful ways of actually connecting and supporting people. There are also a plethora of small voluntary community groups that actually work tirelessly within the community. However, not all communities are actually know or aware what's going on. So there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of commitment from people to actually make some kind of transformative change. Where does Aging Better come in? Aging Better didn't start last year, it started nearly 4 years ago. Coming up to about 5 years ago. And part of the role was that in the initial elements of Aging Better, they had a hub. And within the hub, they've actually supported some of the region by 50, 60 types of groups to actually run meaningful activities. So I had a very unique position. Now I had a wealth of intelligence and local knowledge in the local communities that we can actually build and improve on. What tended to happen was that when I actually got involved, first 3 months of my life was always having conversations with a number of organizations to identify, what are their unique selling points? What was the kind of unique features that they had? And one of the key things that I tried to develop was it can never be done alone. To develop any kind of strategy involved working collaboratively with other people. And one of the key aspects at the beginning was about mobilizing people, but developing relationships. And what happened was how the relationships developed was actually in 3 tiers. And one was actually trying to get larger organizations to actually develop a narrative of actually addressing issues affecting older people. And another one, which were very small organizations, which really required the nurturing and supporting of actually developing their kind of vision and mission. And the next final stage is actually the connectivities from the grassroots communities. And that actually provided a kind of mechanism. I call it like the waterfall effect, is that you got the lottery providing the resources, you got BVSC providing the scrutiny and the framework. And then you had a group of organizations that were like anchor-based organizations who had assets and resources, and then supporting smaller groups. The outcome of this was that, again, a lot of conversations and trying to build something to identify which organization can deal and work on particular issues and try to support and nurture. And one of the presentations, which is Smart Women CIC, is just one of the organizations that were helped, and how their journey from developing an idea and taking an idea into a meaningful activity and trying to actually make impacts in the communities they serve. At the end of the day, it is very difficult working in any communities, but how you can transform communities is by working together. Developing these relationships is not an easy task. It does not take 6 months. It does not take a year. It takes a number of years to develop those relationships, to develop the social capital in the communities that can actually provide services within the community. So that gives an outlook of what's being done. And the future is actually continuing that journey, developing those relationships, developing those services, and trying to create an infrastructure that we have leaders within the community, practitioners providing services, but holistically trying to improve the quality of life for people over the age of 50. I'll hand it back to Ted.
Well done, Naeem. Thanks very much for that, and within your allotted time as well. Okay, Rabina from Smart Women, do you want to give an outline of what Smart Women do, and where have you come from, and your aspirations over the next while, and the number of women that you work with and stuff like that? You're on pause, Rabina. You're on mute, by the way.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah. That's it.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. That's lovely. Thank you.
Yes, Smart Women CIC, we start the work with the Smart Women CIC in 2012, right? So this is not going to be, I think, 10 years, more than 10 years. So I used to work before with the grassroots organizations as well. So I have a lot of the experience with the grassroots organizations. So I start my own Smart Women CIC. What is the reason behind to start our own organization? Because of the local demand. The women, especially the women, they are in a very restricted families. They can't go out. They can't go in. I mean, they don't have the freedom in their families. But when I start this organization, Smart Women CIC, I had a lot of the pressure on my head as well. Why you open this one, and the women, yeah, they will come, they will do this and that. Yeah. But I said to them, yeah, because the women, they need it. So what we did in a in our organization, we small portion, we make a small portion, like we have the gym, so we can do the well-being session for them. They can come, they can start the gym. We have the small classroom, they can come here, they can do the some kind of the training. We have the beauty parlor. So and we basically we create the place of trust there. The women come here and they can discuss their issues. So we had the very good experience in with the Smart Women CAC at the moment, with the work for the women, particular for the work with the over 50s. There is a lot of the issues we identify in past 8-9 years, but to be very honest, in the last 2 years, last year and this year, what we identify, it's really shocking. That's a lot of the issues, the grassroots, they are suffering at the moment in their families, in their houses. So there is no particular around as support for the women. A support like the our organization, like our centers. Yeah, there is no a lot of support here. The access for the services, there is no access for the services. Yeah, they don't have the access for the services. Yeah. The other thing is that the women, they are isolated. They have a lot of the issues in their families, in their extended families, with their children, with the others. So these are we identifying at least more than the 1,500 women since last year. They are suffering most of the issues. So we're trying to sort out their issues. We're trying to help them with the other organization. As like a name, I always run to the name. Yeah, name is with us since when we start this organization. To be very honest, name is only one person. Yeah, who been supporting us. I'll be very honest. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but name is the only one person. Always I just hold that name. Come on, help us. Yeah, and the name said, Rubina, why I'm helping. He will tell you why he is helping us anyway. But I'm just saying always, and he. Even then, as a night time, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, I phone to name, I'm stuck, I need this help. And name help me, yeah. Name help, he's ready to help us anyways, yeah. And if this is a very true, if I'm saying, yeah, we are stand here. And this is for the support of the name, yeah. So name knows everything. I discuss all the issues with the name, and name giving us a guideline, name giving us everything, because first 6 to 7 years, we don't have the funding. He did try every week, every month. He just write down the love the application for us. Yeah, but we turn back again. No, there is no Smart Women CIC can't get this grant, can't get this. But anyways, yeah, he support us a lot. Yeah, which is true. Okay, so we are the evidence here. That's for the name. If we will say the issues for the Smart Women CICs are facing, and the aging, other things, yeah, the aging better help a lot as well, because aging better give us a right path to us. Yeah, even though yeah there was a small funding, even though there was a short time period, yeah, but we did a lot of the activities with the aging better. And there's one thing I can see, the aging better is a very short, like a 3 months program. When the women, they start this program, when they're trying to formulate this program, and then after that the program is finished, we don't have the funding, then we start volunteer. So we did a lot of the volunteer work even then after finishing our project with the aging better as well. We just keep the data on with these last 3 years program with the aging better. So we had the data. So this pandemic, so we had a lot of the contact. So we contact straight away to them. These women, they need the help. So we know what the help they needed. even than the small issues, even than the big issues. Or the women, you know, they, even the women, they just, when they have the issues, yeah, even the small issues, they just start to panicking to go to the, they said, oh, we want to go for the GP, but the GP didn't give us the appointment. We want to go to the hospital, but hospital didn't give us the appointment. And we don't have that much support from the NHS. So I think there is issues. There's a lot of the issues, and we need to work out with the over 50s. They even their mental health, their physical, and we just do. And this
you just got 1 minute. You just got 1 minute left, Ravina. All right.
Even then, during this time, we the people, they just all organization, they are closing down, the businesses are closing down. We took again the risk to get another building. Why we took the building? Because of the demand. And yesterday we just sit down over there, and 25 women, older women, they're registering themselves because they are the isolated and they are the home. They are nothing to do that. So by the conclusion, there is a lot of the issues, and we will discuss, and when we will go after 2 weeks time, yeah, we will go on for another meeting and we will discuss it. Yes, my minute is gone.
That's your minute gone. Thanks very much, Ravina. Okay,
you.
and I'm sure there'll be some questions, and if not, I've got some questions to come back and everything like that.
Yeah,
right. Right. Now, Naeem 2, otherwise known as Cam. And the reason it's not because there was a problem with links this morning, so she's come in on that.
Yeah.
So as Pram said, she works for Asiana Community Project, doing some of the well-being work, and she's going to talk about the work she does with well-being with some of the women there, and also how it's used to recruit women and bring people into the organization. So you've got your time and off you go.
Thank you. So good morning, and thank you for having me on. And I just want to mirror actually what Naeem has said, that there is a great sense of satisfaction when you're working out in the community and doing something to support people that sometimes maybe have less advantage or a disadvantage to getting access to some of the services. So knowing that Sparkbrook is, you know, in one of the areas which is classed as being deprived, we had in our wellbeing hub, we've got 3 huge outcomes which we work towards, and we use that as a basis to move forward to support women in the BAME community. And the outcomes all are linked to around improving women's well-being by reducing things like anxiety, depression, isolation, very much like also on the same lines of Rabina's work, you know, and getting them to participate in sort of a range of positive activities. And we're very hands-on. So we work with women in their local area by inspiring them to start to think about looking after their physical health. That normally is a very good starting point, because who doesn't want to get fit? Who doesn't want to look after their health in general? We get quite a good positive response from women who are looking to either enhance, you know, their fitness or their diet. So it's always a good starting point. And so we have a range of physical activities. And when I say we're hands-on, we are hands-on because I lead 3 or 4 of those activities. So I'm the yoga teacher, I teach yoga and meditation, and that has been very successful with our women in the community post-COVID and during COVID. And we do run clubs where we have now women quite empowered to come out and run with us on the canal, and we run 5K, sometimes once a week, sometimes twice. Yeah, I know, Ted, waiting for you to join. And but actually a beautiful story I can tell you about empowering women, and it came to light during COVID, was we were running regular run clubs Mondays and Fridays, and we'd have 6 to 8 women running every morning. And during COVID, obviously things had to stop and we had to close a lot of our services and move online, which was a new thing for all of us. But some of the women got so inspired that they started running on their own. And that in itself is very, very uplifting and very, very powerful, because before they would never feel like going out by themselves, because they'd tell me that they feel worried or they'd be scared, things are unfamiliar. But what we found was we have now got women, when the COVID rules had lightened a bit, they were running by themselves or in small little groups, and then they would send us little pictures on WhatsApp to say, look, I'm being Cam today and I've led the run. So it's very, very inspiring, but it's taken a lot of work. So it's not an easy thing for us to do. It takes a lot of nurturing. It takes a lot of talking to people. It takes a lot of inspiring people, and we constantly are, I think since the pandemic, we've got a WhatsApp community group, and there's about 165 members in that WhatsApp community group. And out of those, there are probably 140 community people in that, as in local community, who we share a daily inspirational message with. We tell them what activities we've got going on, and it's been going on daily since March the 24th, 2020, when we went into our first lockdown. And that's kept people, I'm hoping, from the feedback we get, people still keep in touch. It reduces some isolation, and we've moved a lot of our activities onto an online platform, which has got its benefits, but there were some limitations because not everybody has access to social media platforms or, you know, internet in itself. So we've trying to improve the well-being of our women by offering a range of physical activities to help with their physical health, but also tap into then their mental and emotional health. And once our women start to feel like they're seeing a bit of a difference here and being supported, they then start to talk to us about other things that are bothering them. So it might be things that are going on at home that they're not comfortable with. It might be parenting, it might be looking after the elderly. So we then start to offer coaching services where we've been coaching clients and giving them some strategies to help them cope during the pandemic and before, and obviously now coming out of it. So that taps into us building confidence and helping women to increase their own skills by coming forward and actually sharing and saying, well, actually I'm struggling. And that sometimes in BAME communities can be quite difficult to do because everything is kept behind closed doors, and that's fine if, you know, but sometimes repressing those emotions can be a big burden on a person. So we've got women now who come to us for coaching and mentoring, and we're moving now into a stage where we're looking into offering them education. So we're then getting them starting to get involved now. We're coming out of lockdown into building the capacity for them to participate in social enterprise, volunteering. So we've got some great projects coming along. And with regards to aging better, our involvement with that, trying to target, you know, the over 50s, is we've just started this month, and it's the worst month ever because it's raining, is gardening. So, but you know, it's we've started some gardening therapy. So ACP, we've got a huge garden in the back. It's great. We've got a CIC, a project coming in there who look after the garden for us. But we've also got a peace garden next to a church. It's all very really nice space, and we're using that to target people to come out and get a bit of gardening therapy, because we know that obviously, you know, we need to holistically work with supporting people that offer things. So you can be outdoors, do some gardening. We have a craft club, which is indoor, not in our space, but we're doing it online via Zoom, where we give out embroidery packs. And we are encouraging the younger generation to actually get the elders in their families also to maybe participate in things like the craft clubs and the embroidery. And we started, once the lockdown restrictions were lifted, in small groups, we've started walking nature. So we've had to take off the run for now, but we've started walking nature, and we get, like, you know, a few over 70 ladies who come to walk from the canal down to Ackers. We do that every Friday morning. It's a great opportunity for women to get together, to offload a little, talk about things that are bothering them, talk about cooking, sharing recipes, and literally supporting one another to make sure that we are doing our best to provide an area which has had limited access, but is embracing the services that are available to them. So we're trying to be really visible all the time. We've got social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. So, you know, check us out actually if you've got those platforms, and give us a like. That would be good. And it's also a way, obviously, for communities to collaborate and see how we can work with one another too. So I don't know if my time's up or whether.
Yeah. Well, I think there'll be. I've got some other questions as well to come back to you. So if that's finishing there. Okay. Right. There's no questions in the Q&A. We must have been absolutely brilliant in our presentations. But I've got a few questions which I want to, and one of them is coming back to sort of both Cam and Rabina's issue, but I might step in here. It's this issue of locality and trust, and almost like walking distance access to services. And do you think there's an issue within some communities of just because we do something that's perhaps a bus ride away, we just assume people will go to it, or because a lot of people who plan services drive and stuff like that. Whereas what the communities that you serve, they actually want something that they can pop to between 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock and then go home because they've got other duties and stuff like that. Do you want to say a bit more about, you know, all three of you, Rabina or Naima, Cam, about having somebody that's sort of micro local, which then allows people to access those services?
Sure. I mean, if I can say where we're located is around a park area, farm park, and around it surrounded, it's very residential. A lot of the moms will drop the children off at school and they'll be meeting us between 9:15 and 9:30. So it's literally on their doorstep to come out for a walk or a run or a chat, whatever it might be. So it is very much like, and then once they're done, it's like, right now I've got to go home and I've got a load of housework to do. So it does, for some, make it a lot easier. That's actually through some of the questionnaires we send out on a almost a quarterly basis to women, just to get feedback on the quality of the services and what they want to see improve. One of the most common things they say is they love the fact that it's on their doorstep and it's accessible. And then I do get some women who will say, I wish I lived closer to where you were, because I'd love to come and access the service. So it's a bit of,
We've had a question in the Q&A to sort of follow that up, and perhaps Naeem, you can sort of jump in here a bit, because whilst Spark Brook and Bolsall Heath East is one particular ward, for those not in Birmingham, the ward of Springfield is slightly further south. It's adjacent to the Spark Brook ward, and it's along the Stratford Road, which is a major sort of shopping area, and there's superb clothes shops and food shops and stuff like that along there, and it goes out towards suburbs of Hall Green and Acox Green, that part. But do you get people coming as far? How far is your catchment? You know, do you cover the sort of the Springfield area, and do you cover people like Bolsall Heath and areas like that? You know, is it? Naeem?
I can answer that question. When the program was designed, it actually identified the political ward of Spark Brook, and Birmingham at that time, pre-2018, had 40 wards, and Spark Brook was identified as one of the wards. But I think one of the major questions is it beneficial to have area-based initiatives? And there seems or appears that when you have evidence to show that an area is being deprived or has inequalities, then funding is actually then parachuted in to actually address those particular issues. However, we live in a homogenous community. People are not fixated in geographical places. It's the people networks they have. And from the comments that are being made is that, you know, people who live in Sparkbrook have families in Springfield, have families in Small Heath. And you can't then start differentiating, saying that, well, you live in this area and you need to get the support. The whole idea is you want to empower people so they can actually have experiences or journeys that empowers and improves the quality of life.
Yeah.
So if you want my answer, it shouldn't be area-based, it should be people-based. But one of the questions I was actually is talking about, you know, some BAME voices are not heard, and that has been resident for the last many years. We have a very diverse community, but also a very diverse community organizations. You can have an organization, unincorporated or otherwise, with just one member of staff or even just one volunteer, to an extent that you can have up to 40 employees providing a service, catering not only Sparkbrook but the wider area. And it comes to the point of balance. It's actually identifying an organization about its ability to reach, access, but there is a responsibility, not just with the funders, but with organizations, to ensure that there is an equality in the service provision, that they have measures to actually get access and reach within the communities. But it's also important to actually work within communities, within those particular cohorts of particular BAME communities, that there is a voice there. And not purely on the demographics, but also about issues as well. And I'll just bring one point forward. One of the part of Aging Better, they had a number of meetings, and these meetings were mostly people over the age of 50. And it gave an opportunity for them to actually address particular issues. And one key factor came out, and it was that people over the age of 50 were looking after their parents in their 70s. At that time, nobody actually addressed or brought those particular issues in the local area. But working with a number of grassroots organizations, a survey consultations was done and actually identified it wasn't an isolated narrative in a group meeting. It is quite common in the communities where there are a lot of people over the age of 50 with life-limiting conditions looking after elders. So we develop a narrative, we develop knowledge and intelligence, and then it's trying to get organizations to actually voice those to stakeholders to influence change in the future. So I think one of the points in regards to you know, the voices of BAME communities, it hasn't stopped and it has to continue, but there has to be a social responsibility for key stakeholders to ensure that everybody is represented, and it's actually going back to a grassroots level to actually get those voices heard, because a lot of people are making those voices, but it's finding the platforms to get those connected voices to actually make a difference.
Okay, we've had another question which says, we already know that there are many groups within the BAME community. How do you initially make contact with them, bearing in mind the language barriers? Are there any suggestions that you'd recommend to make the first contact? So, Cam, how do you make, first of all, given the fact that, you know, and I worked at the school within the area, you know, we had 54 languages in that school and stuff like that. So given that sort of diverse language base, how do you, you know, how do you overcome that within organizations and within the services that you then look at developing?
Right, sorry, Ted, I don't know whether my internet went then, but that was that was really broken, so I didn't catch that question.
Okay, basically the question is, it's how many, we know that the BAME community, the BAME community is diverse. How do you make contact with them because of the language issues? And have you got any suggestions about making first contact? So if you start first on how that you do that within the women's hub and stuff like that, and then we'll go around the other participants.
I mean, we are diverse in the sense that we all speak various community languages. So I'm fluent in Punjabi, I can speak a bit of Urdu. My colleagues have got their skills in their languages. So when we connect with people, I think the barrier of language gets broken straight away. So it kind of brings it down a little and it makes people feel at ease. So I think initially we will speak to them if we need to in a community language. If they've come to the centre for some particular advice or support, and they may have been referred. But we will then find a colleague in the office who will be able to, and then we'll use them as a translator.
Okay, thanks.
So I hope that
it does.
answers that question.
Rubina, the amount of the women that you have come into your centre, is there a language issue with participants, and you know, how do you overcome that?
With the language issues?
Yeah.
Okay. I have the, at the moment, we have the registered 45 volunteers with us at the moment. Okay, so they are, we have all the popular languages in these areas, particularly the Mirpuri, Punjabi, Pashto, Potohari, and Urdu.
Yeah.
You don't know the Pashto.
Yeah.
From the tribal areas in the Pakistani. So particularly Attock and the other languages. So because like I said, I told you we are connected with a very grassroots, yes. So yeah. I know personally, I know all of these languages personally, if you can say to me. Yeah. Because my in-laws, they are from the Pashto families, yeah. So my other families, they are from the Islamabad, so Urdu, Pashto, Punjabi, Putwai. So all of the popular language, even then the Bengalis, yeah. After lots of Bengalis, they're visiting in our centers. So I know the bit Bengali as well.
Yeah.
So we know these all popular BAME languages, all the languages, so we know that, yeah. So when they come, yeah, when we speak with their languages, so they get the more confidence, or then they can discuss their issues with us in a very, you know, in a friendly way.
And can I add something?
Yes, you can. You can.
The one key aspect within Sparkbrook is that there are a number of places, and those places has connectivity with people. And when people actually are in a particular area, they get to know each other. So when you're talking about contacting or engaging, you usually find that there is always a passionate individual, call it active citizen, or somebody who's a super volunteer, who will actually connect with a number of organizations. And they are usually like, you know, point of contacts in the community. So when there's any kind of issue, you may go to that particular person. That person may have access to around about 200-300 people. Now, if you carry that across different communities, you build up a very strong infrastructure of point of contacts. And how you actually make those connections stronger is ensuring that the organizations that you're working with have that repertoire of skills of volunteers and staff that actually speak community languages, but also connect with communities. So it's a kind of a narrative that continues, and it is changing. And there are new communities coming in, but there's also established communities that have virtually never engaged with any kind of external service. So it's a growing story, but again, it comes to the point of not just one stakeholder, it's many stakeholders working together, collaborating to ensure that services, the awareness of services, access to services, so that there's greater connectivity. But it's a journey, and it's a story and a narrative that's always continuing.
Okay, thanks for that. One of the other questions I've got is, and I think Cam alluded to it, was, and part of that question was, and part of that question was, alluding to it as well, from a publicity point of view and getting stuff off the ground, are we talking online? Are we talking leaflets? or are we talking word of mouth? And how do services grow, and what's the sort of mix and match with your service development between those three processes? Okay, I know we've been through COVID and stuff like that, but generally, let's look at before COVID and let's look at during COVID and stuff like that. How do people find out about your services, and which is the best way for them for you to develop it and stuff like that?
So before COVID, we were very much using leaflets, posters, and we were contacting, and we still are, we'd made connections with schools, and we would send it to their heads in schools, who would then put things out in newsletters for their parents in the local area. That would be one way, or it would literally be leaflet drops in the local area. So we've done that as well. And then when COVID happened, I think we had to find our inner creativity, and we literally somehow very organically just went online and started to use that as a platform. And the features with online is you can tag, you can use hashtags, and you can tag different charities and organizations that are local. So then they start to know what's going on. And that kind of spreads the message. And then we're encouraging our members to maybe get onto the platforms, because that enhances their knowledge as well. So it's a way of also saying, right, you know, it's not, this social media is not just for the youngsters. Tell your youngsters, use it, you know, and get onto it. And that's still an ongoing thing. We've actually got somebody who does on our team digital inclusion. So she encourages women, shows them how to get onto Zoom, so then they can access some of the services. And so we do sessions on that as well. So a lot of it is, and then we had an opportunity where we were able to, I think for from March till, gosh, it was probably till September, I was on a weekly session on Birmingham Updates, which was a media platform, and I was delivering mindfulness and meditation and wellness tips every half an hour on a Tuesday, and that reached across Birmingham and beyond, and we engaged quite a lot of people being interested in what we were doing, and that kind of spread the word. And since then, I think it's just organically just grown. It's something we just keep putting out. We just keep pushing it out.
Yeah. Okay. Ravina, how do women find out about your activities there? Okay.
In our center, yeah, most of the word mouth, yeah, right, because we have the more than 1,500 contact in our database, right? So we send them when we start any activities, anything, so we send them the messages, yeah, so they got the messages straight away. The other thing is that, yeah, because we are living in a locally, so local people, local women, yes, so mother, sister-in-law, other relatives, yeah, so they know to each other. I got most of the volunteers, so they got their extended families in their areas as well. So when we do anything, any activities, yeah, they just got the straight away their and the other thing is that we just make a, the small group, WhatsApp group, yeah, so with a small number of the people, like one group is there is different religions and different faith women, yeah, so they got their contact, yeah, the other group is the same, is like that, yeah, so they're sharing their ideas. And nowadays, there's everyone's using the social media. So if you will send me anything, so I will send all my contacts. So they got it just straight away. Yeah. So the other thing, word of mouth. Yeah. So connect to the people. People step in. The women step in center, and the leaflet as well. So before the pandemic, yeah, we done nearly 60,000 leaflet for in our center. So we have the contact from there as well. This is how they can get the easily what the activities we are doing. So they got the information.
Okay, thanks.
Can I just add?
Yeah. I was
From my
Yeah.
experiences working with small grassroots organizations, most organizations have volunteers and users. And if a message has to go into the communities, it's actually getting the message into the beneficiaries, the users. And what Smart Women's identified that they had a database of 1,500 people. Well, in our communities, that's the magnitude of people, that the contacts that they have. So it's not just Smart Women CIC. There are many other grassroots organizations. There's one organization that actually provided services for older men, and they had access to around about 250 men, and they were providing a service, but it actually linked in to the kind of work that was done nearly 40, 50 years ago. So they kept that connectivity, but it's actually getting those messages out there. So the strength within the community is the ability to actually get messages out there, but it's again, try to ensure they get the right connections to get the right messages out there in the communities.
Okay. Yeah, what an additional question, because it's all sort of been raised and stuff like that. We hear a lot about digital inclusion at the moment, and older people aren't involved in engaging it, and yet we've all said that, you know, we're on WhatsApp group and we're on how do you think the community has responded to getting older people online? Like during the pandemic and stuff like that, there's been a lot of issues of like services going online and people can't access them. And yet, Cam, you were talking about it, Rabina, you were talking about you know, WhatsApp groups and stuff like that. Have families supported older people? Have you got evidence of families supporting older people about going online so that they can then access those services? And perhaps that's something we can Cam, do you want to do that one first?
Yeah, sure. I think it's not easy for sure, and there are pockets of people who haven't got access to the online, and you know, there's still a lot of work to be done around that at the moment. So the ones that do have access are probably the ones that are a little bit more in tune with their own physical and mental health, so they know how to access a service, or they've been to the centre and they've been part of the community for such a long time that they know that they can come in and they can ask how to, you know, come onto a service. We've got some over 70s that join me for a walk in nature, and they're on WhatsApp and they're on Zoom, and that's only because by talking to me they've said, Cam, show me how to use it. So I've shown them, and then they've been able to access it, and then they just start to familiarize. And like anything, it's just a consistency of use, but there's still a lot of work to be done with getting it out to people who are a lot older, because obviously you know, maybe they just haven't got that support around them, so we're still working on that.
Okay. And Rabina, did you give support to your women who wanted to get online and WhatsApps and stuff like that? How did you?
Yes, if we will talk about before the pandemic before, yes, so the women, they can come in the center if they need anything, yeah, they just phone us and then we can help them, yeah. But during the pandemic, yeah, because we had the particular programs grant as well, so our volunteer, they just helping the women, even then they go to their houses, yeah, because these are the young girls as well, so they're familiar with the internet and how to use it.
Okay.
And so we just showed them as well. Mostly the women, yeah, like a Cam said, yeah, they, you know, they're not familiar with this, but in their houses, yeah, they're using the WhatsApp on a regular basis. Now WhatsApp is a very easy. We can't go on even then the other, the Facebook and the Instagram, but we just find that the WhatsApp is easier. So if we show them, okay, this is the phone, so you can go on this app, then you can press the button, and they easily connect to each other. So I find the WhatsApp is a very easy for them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
WhatsApp is the signals you can't receive all the time.
Well, that's technology for you. If the satellite's not working.
And when you're talking along, and then other side, you will see, signal gone drop, and they say, what did you say? And then
what did I say? We've only got a couple of minutes left. There's another question just popped up. Do you run any music-based activities? Do we run any music-based activities within this?
The mice in here.
Have you run any amongst your women's group in there? Have you done any music-based activities, Ravina?
No, we don't, but not on a regular basis. Once like a party or something, but competition for the singing and something like that. But we don't have any support for that here for those.
Okay, but we are looking at arts activities. We were talking, but we talked about that with Ravina earlier on. We are looking at developing arts activities within the group to widen their offer, and that's with a local arts forum, which Zara and I we're also involved with. Cam, do you do any sort of music-based?
The only music is not as in playing instruments and stuff.
Well, anything that's sort of music, anything that's music focused rather than well-being.
Exercise to Bhangra music.
Yeah.
That's about as we got on the moment.
Do you Bhangra-size and stuff like that?
No, we haven't actually got anything in the music sector.
Okay, and as I said, from it's something that we've been exploring, because a lot of the groups that have grown up within the area and have developed within the area have always done that sort of welfare support and that sort of traditional support that comes with some of these deprived communities. One of the role of the Arts Forum is beginning to look at how we introduce those sorts of activities into that offer as an arts activity, and not just as part of a well-being activity, and developing that as well. And it's now 11 o'clock, so unless there's any other questions, I think Vicky's back to people are sort of okay. I think that's about it. I think there's no more questions. That we've covered everything. Thank you very much for all the other for Cam, Naeem and Ravina. Thanks Vicky for putting this on and hosting us.
Not at all, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much to all of you for taking part and sharing your insights and experiences with us. It's it's such an important conversation, so thanks for being part of our Festival of Learning on our final day.
Okay, thanks very much for that. And
thanks to everyone that's attended. I know people probably need to shoot off because there's another session starting at 11 as well. So I shall finish the webinar now and hope to connect with you again.
Okay then. Take care and look after yourselves. Bye-bye.
Take good care. Bye-bye.
Bye.